So, Psalms 27:14, I'm reading from the screen. So, that's where my eyes are going. Psalm 27:14 says, "Wait for the Lord, be strong and take heart and wait for the Lord." Psalm 33:20, "We wait and hope for the Lord. He is our help and our shield." Psalm 130 verse 5, "I wait for the Lord, my whole being waits, and in his word I put my hope." That's literally just 3 verses. That's literally just Psalms. There are, I don't even know, over 100, at least says this site, but I didn't do that research, so I can't tell you. There are so many Bible verses in both the Old and New Testament that talk about waiting, and I can't tell you how many sermons about waiting, and songs, for that matter, on the Lord, waiting on the Lord specifically. And earlier today, actually, I think this was not today, Sunday, it just popped into my head, waiting. And I saw the word waiting, and then I saw like these 4 examples of waiting, and none of them were the Christianese definition of waiting on the Lord that I have heard preached about, or not so much even preached about. Preachers can tell you pretty good, waiting on the Lord this, waiting on the Lord that. But in just discussion with people who are also believers in the God of the Bible, we talk about waiting on the Lord. I feel like that's one of the foundational Christianese phrases that we learn to say. I'm just waiting on the Lord. I'm not belittling the fact that we do need to wait on the Lord. I literally just read 3 whole Bible verses that hardcore tell you we should be waiting on the Lord. I'm saying, without a focused look into the face of that Christianese phrase, it's really easy to assume that we all know what we mean, that I even know what I mean, and yet a few years back, I got into this concept of Christianese. It was a word I heard Dr. Caroline Leaf use, who's a Christian neuroscientist. In any case, this is what Christianese is these phrases that get thrown around by believers who read the Bible. And we literally even know, to some extent, what we're talking about. But if someone asked me, outside of someone who reads the Bible, what I mean, it might take me a little bit to describe that to them, and that shouldn't be the case. So I'm now on a mission to look straight in the face of every single Christianese phrase that I say or a friend says or whatever says, and not ask them. I don't need to ask them. I need to ask the Lord, and I need to figure out, what does this mean? If someone not knowing God, not knowing the Bible, asks me about this phrase that the church knows and hallelujah is about, can I answer them? Anyway, so that's a whole other topic, but we're here to talk about waiting on the Lord, the phrase, the idea, what is waiting on the Lord? And so it's really easy, I think, to kind of say, oh, I'm waiting on the Lord to determine if I'm going here or here, to determine what is the right idea, or I'm just in a season of waiting, like I don't know what okay. Yes, very good. But now, what are you doing? Waiting is a verb. Waiting is an action. An action. Not inaction. An action. In fact, you don't have to believe me. We're going to go look at the interlinear, which is a type of book study that we can use. Actually, BibleHub.com has a great interlinear resource for the Bible. You type in a Bible verse and interlinear and go to BibleHub.com and find it in there, and it literally shows you the original language, and then you click on it and it shows you the word definition of the word itself. Okay, so in those, in which verse actually did I look up? I looked up Psalm 27:14 for the wait that's in there, but most of these waitings in the Hebrew, one Hebrew word for wait that I just read is translated Qavah, kavah, I think, is how you would say that. because that's what it says on the screen. I wonder if I can show you. So this is BibleHub.com. You go and find the verse with the interlinear, and it's backwards because Hebrew is written backwards. Just so you know, if you look at interlinear and you're in the Hebrew, you're in the Old Testament, it's probably backwards. Anyway, so then I clicked over here. Where's my mouse? Okay. I clicked over here on wait so I could learn what that word means. Right, so that's what I'm looking at right now. Actually, why don't I just let you look? All right, so if I can do this, and okay, I can do this. Okay. Anyway, so we're scrolling down. There's lots of interesting stuff in the interlinear Bible. We're going to look at Strong's Exhaustive Concordance. This is very helpful to get an understanding of the definitions of words in the Hebrew language, or the Greek for that matter. Anyway, we're in Hebrew. The word wait means to gather together, to look, to patiently something, to patiently seek. It's a type of doing other things, okay? To tarry, wait for, on, upon, right? So it's a primitive root. So we're at like the foundation of the foundations. To bind together. Let me tell you, have you ever tried to bind something together? Perhaps by twisting, says Strong's. To bind something together is relatively active. I don't just look at two pieces of rope and say, I bind you. I usually pick them up with my hands to do something, to co-work the concept of binding them together. Right. So other things that this says is to collect. I don't normally look at a bunch of seashells on the beach and say, I collect thee. I usually go out with a bucket and my hands or a shovel and collect the seashells. In fact, then I proceed to wash them, and then I bring them home and display them somewhere. And then maybe even I do something with them. I collected them for a purpose. Decorative purpose, a jewelry making purpose. Lots of purposes for what I've collected, right? Or to figuratively, to expect, to gather, to look, patiently, tarry, wait for, or upon, as in the first of the 4 examples that God gave me when I was asking him about wait, because he just dropped this into my head. 4 ways to wait. What is it to wait on the Lord? 4, wow, look at these little fluffs. Okay. To wait on the Lord, what he showed me, maybe he shows you something else unique, you should ask him. But this is what, for me, according to the actual word that was used when the verses were written, and what the Spirit showed me about this, is to wait on the Lord. 4 ways that this tangibly plays out. Okay. 1, something like a waitress. A waitress or waiter waits on people. So in waiting on the Lord, in other cultures, they acknowledge the idea that God's Spirit, the life force, is in other people. So literally to serve others is to serve God. Consequently, the Bible talks about this too. So to wait on the Lord could look like serving him, which looks like serving human beings, talking to them, waiting on them. I don't know what I'm supposed to do right now. Let me go find people who know what they're supposed to do right now and serve them unto the end goal. I have had worry about doing something like that. I've had other people talk to me about you know they were supposed to be doing something specific or good or whatever, and you kind of are doing a lot of spinning your wheels to figure that out, and worried about positioning yourself into someone else's vision, but actually that would have been a better use of my time. So, waiting on others while I'm waiting for the answer of what I'm supposed to be doing. Okay, that's one example of waiting on the Lord. Another thing in this Christianese decoding that we're doing is waiting at a bus stop or waiting for a cake to bake. You have done work, you've gotten to the bus stop, you need to get somewhere else. You've gone all the way to where God tells you to go. You've gone all the way to where it's reasonable for you to be. Now the bus is not here. But I'm still not just sitting there. I'm still not just sitting next to the stove while the cake is baking. I'm probably getting the dishes ready to serve the cake, or making the frosting, or at the bus stop, I'm probably making sure I have whatever I need to get on the bus. I'm looking in the direction that the bus is going to be coming to wait on the Lord and then pay no attention to the direction of what he's showing you to do, or what else can be done so that when the thing comes, I'm ready, is a very foolish thing to do. In fact, I will let you know that all 4 of these are things I have done or have been doing, which is probably why he brought the word wait into my head, and upon asking him, I got these 4 examples. So waiting on the Lord, Christianese, means serving him by serving others. It means actively looking for what else I can be doing when I have done all I can do up to the bus stop. But I'm still looking for the bus, and while keeping my attention peripherally towards the bus, looking to make sure I have what I need. The third thing it could mean is yielding. You're driving. Yield is another form of wait. You get to a stop sign. You should probably stop, or at least slow down. And to wait on the Lord would be to yield, to get to the point of understanding he's brought you to, and to have enough humility to slow down and say, okay, what next? And not apply meaning to any of the other ideas that I have, or that I think he should have, or that I think what he said means, because usually I'm wrong. Just am. And then the 4th thing that waiting on the Lord means, according to the original language and what the Spirit showed me, is, I was kind of just starting to talk about it, but to not to, when he shows me something, or when a Bible verse is read, or when I read a Bible verse, or when any human says anything, because humans are image bearers of God, I just need to stop applying meaning to any of the things that are said, or read, or inferred. Because usually, when he says something and I apply meaning to it, what do I mean by that even? I mean reading a Bible verse and then assuming, wait for the Lord, be strong and take heart and wait for the Lord. And now I'm looking at be strong and take heart. So now I'm thinking about what I know about strength and hearts. And I'm thinking about what I know about the Lord and waiting. And applying all of my meaning to what it says to kind of get some greater meaning from the verse. Some collective meaning from those words. Using what I already know to make sense of what I just read. That's kind of a logical thing. On the other hand, when we're talking about words God speaks to your spirit and words the Bible speaks to you as you read them, better practice is go into it assuming I don't know what any of that means. It's a great time, let me say it this way, reading the Bible or hearing something from the Spirit is a great time to not use the human design of using pre-known awareness to know what's happening. We kind of need to do that in normal life to a certain extent so we can do anything. I need to call upon what I know about driving to drive to Walmart. But in the still space of hearing from God or reading the Word, it's all so much more beneficial to be a child assuming I don't know any of what's being said and using resources to figure things out. Like I just showed you before with Bible Hub and interlinear things. The idea of wait for the Lord. Okay, Lord, what does that mean? So I can look at the interlinear and what the original language Hebrew word meant. I can look at the dictionary at least to get a fresh insight on what waiting means. I can ask myself the reflection question. What do I think? What is waiting? Can you show me what waiting is? Asking God. Like literally interrogating yourself, asking God more questions based on what you read or what you heard, as opposed to just assuming. So waiting on the Lord, those 4 things. Any of those could be what we mean when we in Christianese say waiting on the Lord. Not saying we shouldn't say that. I'm saying we should know what we mean. And so, yielding, like at a stop sign, just pause a minute, look for traffic so you do not hit people on your way to accomplish what you're supposed to be doing. Bus stop or cake baking sort of waiting. Okay, you've gotten to the point of what you're supposed to do. What else can you do while you're waiting for the next thing to happen? That's a logical thing. waiting on others, sort of waiting on the Lord. Serving people around you while you are in a waiting season. I hope mine starts looking, every time I'm in a waiting season, more like a lot of people around me getting more help than they did have, because I'm in a waiting season. As opposed to, I'm in a waiting season. Can't help anyone or myself because I have to wait. It's just how it's been. It's not how it should be. It's not how it should now be, because I know this, but it's why I'm learning this. And waiting as in not assuming, not applying meaning, waiting for an answer that is not the first one that my heart gave when I read or heard something. That is all. Happy Tuesday night, and that's it. That's all.